Wow. Uber riders' tipping behavior exposed. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to the Rideshare Hub. My name is Dylan and thank you so much for coming by. I really do appreciate it. In today's video, I'm breaking down exactly how much do Uber riders tip? How much are they not tipping? You might be surprised. So I'm gonna go over that, and I was honestly shocked when I saw the numbers, so my gosh. I feel like if you guys don't know me, hi, my name's Dylan, by the way, you know. This is the Rideshare Hub. I run this channel about Uber and Lyft, and for me, whenever I give rides on Rideshare, I get tipped almost every single time. But you know me, I talk all the time, super, you know. I know all the tips and tricks on how to get tips. Basically, it's like make your rider feel super, super important. Don't talk about yourself, just talk about them. I know it's tempting to not talk about yourself because as humans, we love talking about ourselves, but I resist the urge, and whenever they ask a question about me, I give a short, quick answer, then I ask a question right back to keep the conversation focused on them, so that way they feel like super important. And this is like a trick just to have more friends and be more influential. This is like a leadership mentality. If you guys know me, you know, it's basically like the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Use people's names, make people feel super important. But I use that when I do rides. So you know, let me show you guys really quickly. This was a ride the other day I had where I gave a ride. Here, guys, I gotta pull this up really quick because you guys will not believe this. Just so you guys know, I'm not lying. All right, check out this ride right here, guys. $76 ride. Ride earnings, $60 tip, $15. Have you guys ever gotten that? You know, I was just like going off the top for this guy. Maybe you're watching this because I told him that I had a YouTube channel too. But we were just talking about, you know, cars, we're talking about everything. But anyways, so I'm gonna get into the video now or go over the article on all the tipping behaviors. It's pretty crazy. This is from Wired. 40 million, wow. 40 million trips. Okay, sorry, it's revealing. I'm gonna get into it, but they analyzed 40 million trips. It's crazy. So, and this will teach you, if you're a driver, how to make more tips in the future. So before I get into the video, please, if you can do me one simple, tiny little favor and give the video a big thumbs up, I would really appreciate that. It helps me out a lot to give the video a thumbs up, like honestly, like a lot. It helps me out a lot. So please give the video a big thumbs up. Yeah, and it also makes me feel good. You know, as a human, I like the likes. And then also subscribe if you want to be notified whenever I post videos. Anyways, let's jump into it right now. Your secret Uber tipping behavior exposed. A study of 40 million trips find that men tip more than women, that women drivers get bigger tips, and that riders tip more on repeat rides with a driver. Okay? Now let's get into the details. You want a crunchy dollar bill? Let's go. After the Uber ride is over, it's just you and your phone and your choice. Do you tip? Question mark. If you've ever taken a ride as an Uber and a Lyft on Uber and Lyft, as I'm almost 100% sure you have if you're watching this, you know that feeling. After you get out of the ride, it's asks you to rate your driver and leave him a tip, and you're thinking, well, what should I give him? Usually, as a rider, for me, whenever I do rides, I pretty much decide during the ride how much I'm gonna tip the guy. I usually at least leave a dollar or two, but I have left, you know, $7 tips, $10 tips, $5 tips, $10, I think I already said $10 tips. I go out of my way. If the driver is really, really good, like, you know, he's great, he's gotta be good. As long as he's like a safe, smooth driver, which I know is crazy, but that's actually rare to have a driver who actually follows the speed limit, doesn't speed around skidding, you know, honking at people. If there's a safe rider and basically just follows the traffic laws, is kind of nice to me, I will leave like a $5 or $10 tip because that's just rare. But anyways, here we go. Do you tip? New research published by the National Bureau of Economic Research suggests the answer has more to do with you than your driver's performance. And the researchers behind the work believe that the conclusion might have implications for the whole sharing economy, the suite of services that rely on apps as intermediaries between workers and customers. If you don't know what they're talking about, it's essentially the fact that Uber does not have a product. They are a platform. Well, Uber rides, whatever you want to call it. They're not selling anything. All they are is a service. They're a platform. They connect they connect drivers with passengers. That's it. They don't do anything else. Well, I mean, obviously they're running it and everything, but they don't have employee drivers. They're just connecting two people. And so this whole notion of, it's just like Airbnb. They don't have a product. Well, I mean, you call their product their platform, but their platform is just connecting hosts, house hosts, with people looking to stay, you know? Yeah, it's, or the same thing with Turo. Car renters, people who have cars and people who want to rent cars. And all Turo's doing is connecting them. All Airbnb is doing is connecting them. And all Uber and Lyft is doing is just connecting the two people. That's it. So that has a lot to do with how people go about tipping. When you go to a restaurant, for example, you almost automatically just tip because you know that that person is making a set small wage, and the only way the restaurant kind of works, and it's like, there's a manager, there's a cook, there's a chef, you know, everybody gets tipped out at the end of the night, so you know that when you leave a $20 tip, kind of spreads out to everyone. And yeah, your server usually takes a bulk of it, but you know that the chef, that the cooks are gonna get some, the bartender's gonna get some, the hosts are gonna get some, the bussers are gonna get some. It's totally different though. So here we go. The paper is based on 40 million observations of Uber tipping behavior collected from 4 weeks of UberX rides in the summer of 2017, just after Uber rolled out in-app tipping. Uber had previously resisted building a tipping function into its app, arguing that quality of service and tipping often had little to do with each other, and saying that tips could push drivers to spend more time in wealthy neighborhoods in search of bigger tips. In the past 2 years, the company says drivers have received almost $2 billion in tips. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's crazy. If you guys remember when Uber, first started, they discouraged tipping. They said, they even because in order to get people away from tax, it was actually really smart what they did, but it did have, obviously some side effects too. But this was a super intelligent marketing tactic. Because the only and they had to do this, or I mean they didn't have to, but the outcome of this was absolutely phenomenal. I know if you're a driver, you're thinking, what? They told people not to tip, but trust me, people would not be ordering as many rides as they are today if Uber had not done this. What they did when they first started, their whole marketing tactic was order an Uber ride. You don't need to tip. It's not a taxi. They wanted to get rid of the whole taxi notion and into the rideshare notion. So they said, it's not a taxi, you don't need to tip. You just order. It's because on taxis, it's always like, all right, you're watching the clock roll out. You don't know how much the heck the ride's gonna cost. You gotta wait till the ticker. But on Uber, it's like, all right, the ride's $6. It's $6. It's through the app. There's none of this BS. Like the driver is like, oh, are you gonna tip? How they wanted to make it way smoother. However, a side effect that came with that was that people didn't tip because they didn't think they had to. But now Uber introduced in 2017, after they kind of changed the whole notion, they said, okay, well now we want you guys to tip. So $2 billion in tips now. Researchers have found that Uber riders were worse tippers than you might expect. Drivers were tipped in just 16% of rides. I get way more than that. Honestly, closer to 50, and just 1% of riders tipped on every trip. Yeah, I don't tip on every trip. Trust me, there's a lot of bad drivers out there. I know why it's only 1%, because a lot of drivers are creepy. A lot of drivers break all the traffic laws. A lot of drivers are really rude, don't talk to you. They're just speeding around doing their job. They don't look back at you, and a lot of them are mean and creepy. I'm Just talking from personal experience. I've had drivers hit on me, and it's weird. 60% of riders never tipped at all. Male riders tipped 19% more than often than female riders and tipped 23% overall. Counterintuitively, the more rides people took, the less likely they were to tip. Riders tipped nearly a quarter of the time in their first 15 trips, but by ride 275 tipped less than 10% of the time. So basically, the sweet spot is a newer rider in their first 15 trips. They're more likely to tip. Because the tipping functionality had been introduced just before the study period, it's possible Uber rider tipping behavior has since changed. Yeah, it could change since 2017. No, duh. It's 2019, bro. The paper relied, but still good information. Drivers' characteristics and behavior appeared to affect riders' tipping decisions. Female drivers, did I skip this part? The paper relies on detailed data about drivers, riders, and the rides themselves, including length, pickup time, and how many quick accelerations, hard braking, and speeding stretches occurred during the trip. That's actually, whoa, how do they know that though? That's crazy. Drivers' characteristics and behavior appeared to affect riders' tipping decisions. Female drivers, and especially younger female drivers, were tipped more than the male ones. I know, I can understand that. Female bartenders usually get tipped more than male bartenders, especially by male riders. Wah, 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 they're trying to get some action. Those who accelerated quickly and braked hard. If you're a driver, even me, I know I'm not a female, but I've gotten hit on by dudes as well. I used to have bleach tips, okay? I know what you're thinking. Yeah, I get hit on by dudes as well. Dudes are savage, and by women as well. Trying to invite me out to the bars, to their parties and stuff. I'm like, yo, I'm working. I don't want to go party with you guys. Crazy stuff. But I can see why guys tip young female riders, you know, just addressing the elephant in the room. Those who accelerated quickly and braked hard also got slightly smaller tips on average. About 50, yeah guys, this is why I always say accelerate slowly and brake slowly. 50 cents less per trip for the former and about 1 cent less for the latter. But the age of the car didn't matter much. Drivers with cars from after 2009 got about 1 cent. Yeah, it doesn't matter about your car too much. The researchers didn't have data on the drivers or riders race. Drivers shouldn't see the research as a how-to manual, says Bharat Chandar, one of the paper's co-authors and a former Uber economist who is now studying for a PhD at Stanford's Graduate School of Business. So one of the co-authors was actually, he used to work for Uber. So that is pretty, you know, that's a very credible person right here. That, you know, he used to work there. So he know, like, he has, I guess, the data. I mean, they freaking know, like, how many hard brakes, how fast they accelerated. That's crazy. Like, they know all the data. This is based off everything. This isn't just, oh, let's take some screenshots from drivers. This is like legit Uber data. On each given trip, the tip amount is a consequence of a lot of different factors that aren't necessarily tied to quality. Interesting, okay. Why? 3 of the paper's 4 co-authors are former Uber. Okay, so 3 of the 4 co-authors are Uber employees in general. Uber tends to enter into sensitive research agreements with teams that include at least 1 employee. The authors note that they worked with Uber product teams and management execs to design and implement the study, but a company spokesperson said that Uber does not censor findings. Interesting. The paper is a peek into the dark heart of each Uber rider, a glimpse into the tipping decisions people make when no one is looking and when they believe they may never see the tippee again. That behavior happens after Uber rides, but also after DoorDash deliveries or TaskRabbit services. I'll just finish up really quick and then finish off my final thoughts. The researchers were surprised to discover that, contrary to other research into the topic, the default tipping suggestions that Uber built into its platform, prompts to say give riders $3, $5, or $8 in tips, led to only about a 2.5% increase in tips. So basically, riders are already deciding in their own head before they get that prompt how much they're gonna tip. Only 2.5% increase from that, you know, that suggestion that Uber said. So a lot of drivers were thrilled, and trust me, I'm in the driver community, when Uber introduced that suggestion, but it doesn't really make too much of a difference anyway. Similar work on taxi cab tipping behavior suggested that those default raised tips pretty dramatically by 10%. Oh, wow. Chandauer and his colleagues suggest this is because riders have to tip their taxi drivers to their faces. That's true. I actually rode in a taxi, gosh, almost 5 years ago now. Pretty crazy, yeah. I guess that was pretty much before Uber was like popular. But I was in San Francisco actually. I was visiting a friend and I went out to a bar, and yeah, I was 21, okay? It was like 4 years ago. Anyways, I took a taxi home because it was just really far. We walked there and it was just like a really long ride back. But I had to tip, like I had to tip before I left. Like it was a card thing, so I put the card in and it said tip. So it's like, I was more of a face-to-face thing, whereas with Uber, you just get out and then you're never gonna see the guy again. So I don't know, maybe that's the reason why too. Uber drivers, by contrast, have the smartphone and the app. It's just between you and the screen, which means the decision to tip and how much is driven more by moral compass than social mores. But something interesting happened, the research found. In the rare instances when riders were matched with a driver a second time, tipping rose by 27%. A level of social connection can form simply through a rider and driver interacting with each other more than once and regardless of the level of conversation. The researchers wrote, just seeing a similar face, in other words, trigger the kind of social norms that lead customers to, say, tip a waiter. That's super interesting. Now that I think about it, whenever I go to a bar or a restaurant and I see the same face, I know that I'm gonna tip more, or like at least, you know, a solid amount, because I probably know I'm gonna see them again. And oh gosh, and so it's like when I come back, I want them to honestly be like, oh yeah, that guy tipped me well, let me treat him better. Or like, oh, you know what I mean? Like if you don't tip somebody and you see them again and they're your waiter, do you think they're gonna be happy to see you or like go way over the top for you? They might even be a little rude to you. So that's really interesting. Now that I don't even think I've ever had the same driver. I've taken a lot of Ubers and Lyfts, but this just goes to say, as a driver, it's in your best interest to keep driving more and more in terms of tipping, because in the same area, so let's say if you drive in a college area as a driver for Uber or Lyft, the more times you get the same people, like college students, it's the same college students, think about it, they're ordering rides all the time, going out every single Friday, Saturday night, even Thursday night, you're probably bound to get that same passenger again. And 27% of the 27% increase that you will get a tip. So here we go. It's an exciting time for research into social behavior, says Chandar, because scientists can now analyze gigantic, richly detailed data sets on human behavior. For decades, tech has attempted to optimize modern life. Now maybe it could optimize modern generosity too. That's funny. They ended out with a little joke, but that is honestly super interesting. Like, do you think like something like this could ever happen with taxi rides? Heck no. You can never analyze how fast the driver brakes, how fast he accelerates. With Uber, they have all the data. I didn't even realize they had that data. That is pretty nuts. It does make sense though. So anyways, just my final thoughts on this. Yeah, I mean, but it's no surprise that not Uber drivers don't get tipped as much as they should. Uber drivers work hard. If you're a passenger watching this, tip your drivers. They're working hard. You guys have seen my videos giving back to drivers. I did tipping Uber drivers $600, tipping Lyft drivers $1,000, you know. I want to give back. I did tipping the pizza delivery guy $500. I even gave away a car to a Lyft driver. You know me, like, I'm trying to do my part in this world, and if you too, like, just next time you get a ride, tip the guy a couple extra bucks, you know, he deserves it, she deserves it. Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, we work hard, okay? And you know, you have a couple, if you're taking a ride for Uber or Lyft, you probably have a couple extra bucks you can spare for the driver. So anyways guys, thank you so much for watching today's video. Again, leave the video a big thumbs up if you did enjoy it, and make sure to subscribe so you get notified every single time I do post a video on Uber and Lyft. I will post updates every single time something like this does come out that I find interesting about rideshare, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss those videos. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I will see y'all next time. Later guys, peace.